Hello, good afternoon. So first request I have is please move closer. You guys kind of spread out. If you can come closer, we can have more fun. I assure you, you guys will. Yeah. So before I start, just to tell you, you're here to learn about the Sikh. Sikh means a student. So we are all students here today, although technically you guys are guru. Guru means a teacher. So, but guru can be a student too sometime, because knowledge moves both ways. So I'm requesting all the gurus to be students today. Please. So the Sikh community, you probably have many students, you probably have neighbors, you probably have some friends, some of you maybe even have family members. So Sikhs been not stranger to California. They've been here more than 100 years. I think why we're here today, we used to have Assemblyman Dan Logue. He introduced this resolution in California Assembly in 2010. November is a month of Sikh appreciation and awareness. So due to his efforts, today's November 1st, so it's a good beginning. You all know there's something happening in your town this weekend. Please raise your hand if you've been to the Sikh parade. So look like many of you need to go there. This event is open to anyone. You will be definitely served a free meal, and you can try different kind of foods and meet people. So we are expecting over 100,000 people this weekend. And I will explain you what this event is about later on. So the Sikh people are one of the most migrated people out of South Asia, which includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. The whole subcontinent is called South Asia. But going to the bottom, the Sikhs are the second largest group in Sutter by faith in Sutter County, and Punjabi is the third spoken language in the area. Anybody knows which one is the second one? Spanish, English, Spanish, Punjabi. This is what I believe which drives all of us. That it's our human spirit which drives us for the progress. I don't think there's anything more powerful than the human spirit, and that pretty much applies to all of us. But I will share how it applies to the Sikhs. So some of you history teachers here. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a historian, but I'm going to go over some basic. India is one of the ancient civilizations, which existed for 6,000-7,000 years. So let's talk a little bit about ancient India. So this is a map of South Asia. You see those 5 blue lines here. Those are the rivers. Punjab means 5, Ab means waters. So Punjab, most of the people come from region. Punjab is called land of 5 waters. Right now, Punjab region is divided between India and Pakistan. So Indus Valley civilization is one of the oldest civilizations, goes back 6,000 BC. Harappan civilization, which goes back to about 2,500 BC. And a lot of people ask why Punjabis are such a good farmers, because farming was invented in Indus Valley region. So Punjabis are one of the very successful farmers. Wherever they go, they have a passion for farming, and that's what brought them here. So Aryans came to Indian subcontinent through the Hindu Kush mountains, which is a small area which connects India to Afghanistan. In old times, people didn't have the aeroplanes and people came by land. So that was the area most of the people passed to Indian subcontinent. And just to touch on that, it was a melting pot of the ancient world, because everybody came through Punjab to India. So we had different invaders. Some people came to do trade. Some people came to preach their faith. So with a lot of intermixing of ideas. Buddhism became a dominant faith in that part of the world, 540 BC. Alexander also came to Punjab, 1330 BC. He came all the way up there, and then some of his soldiers settled there. So some of them may even have a Greek blood. So there's a lot of mixing there. Ashoka became Buddhist. He was one of the highly respected emperor in India, responsible for spreading Buddhism all over the world. You're all grown up. When 9/11 happened, you probably remember that Taliban was destroying some of the Buddha statues in Afghanistan. So Buddhism was all the way up to Afghanistan. So that was Ashoka. Then Hinduism became dominant again around 650 AD. Then around 800 AD, many Islamic preachers, invaders, business people started coming, and India became primarily ruled by Islamic, different dynasties ruled India for many hundred years. So Guru Nanak was born in 1469. This year we are celebrating Guru Nanak's 550th birthday. It's like a lot of celebrations happening all over the world. So let's talk about, this is a painting, imaginary painting of Guru Nanak. There were no cameras that time. So he lived from 1469 to 1539. And what was his message? He believed that, he preached that there's only one creator. You know, often people ask, are you monotheist or are you polytheist? Sikhs believe in monoism. Anybody know what monoism is? We are all one. Even God is us, we are God, we are all one. So that's what he believed, we are all one. He said that God has no religion, as we make religion. He preached oneness of humankind, including genders, which is probably the first preacher or guru to say there's no difference between men and women. And he rejected the caste system of the Hinduism, which was very strong. The people, it's like worse than racism. So if you're born in certain families, you belong to certain caste, and you can't get out of it. So that was very structured at that time. And when he came to the world, India was ruled by Islamic kings. They treated each other well, but they didn't treat others well who were not of their faith. So there were a lot of divisions in society. So for somebody to say, hey, we are all equal, we are all one, no difference between man and woman, that time was probably a revolutionary thought. And he was followed by 9 more teachers. We call them gurus, spiritual teachers. And their teachings are included in our scripture. We call it Guru Granth. So our scripture, which is called Guru Granth, that is what we are celebrating this week in Yuba City. This is the 40th Sikh parade in Yuba City, and we take our scripture around, and basically we treat our scripture like a living guru, a teacher. So we don't worship it, but we respect it as our divine knowledge. So Sikhs basically respect knowledge and education. This is what we strongly believe in. And there's some unique features about the scripture. It's 1,430 pages of poetry. You can literally sing it. Singing and music is very, very much part of Sikh tradition. And it's all set to musical notes, ragas, which is Indian traditional classical musical notes. I don't know if any of you music teachers here. So it's all set to the music, and it's even set to different music if you sing in a certain part of the day, morning, evening. So it brings a different feelings. And it's all written in poetry. So a new kind of alphabets were created to write the scripture, which is called Gurumukhi. This is how we write Punjabi in Gurumukhi. Punjabi is written in different scripts. But for Sikhs, we write primarily in Gurumukhi because it's a very standardized script. So the meaning will not change with time. The pronunciation will not change with time. And there are 12 vowels. So there are more sounds. English has only 5 vowels. Some of you are probably English teachers. So there are a lot of Punjabi sounds which are hard to use in English. But so the Gurumukhi is a very advanced script. It was written so you cannot change the meaning with time. And the most interesting part is that it's an interfaith document. It includes teachings not just of Sikh teachers. They also included teachings of the scholars and the saints whose teachings were similar, like believed in equality, believed in universal brotherhood, including Hindus, Muslims. Didn't matter what caste, you rich, poor. So there are like 36 authors of this scripture. And these are some very basic principles Sikhs believe. I already mentioned that we believe in equality. And the 10th Guru created Khalsa in 1699. I will come to that later. And we are often asked, what kind of God you believe in? And we believe that God has no shape, form. Once somebody asked Albert Einstein, you all know him probably better than me. So somebody asked him, do you believe in God? A lot of people thought he was an atheist, but he said, I do believe in a God, but I believe in a God like the Spinoza. There was a European rational liberal thinker, and he described God. So I got very interested in reading about Spinoza. So when I read about Spinoza, the God, the way he described, interestingly, it was very similar Guru Nanak described, but although they probably never met, they were 100 years apart. So we believe that we are all one, we are all equal irrespective of what color, nationality, or even what religion we believe in. And this is something unique at that time, because in Indian tradition or in the Middle Eastern part of the world, the men and women were treated very differently. Even now, many parts of the world, even in America, there are challenges in some parts of the society. So something unique. Also, in most of the Eastern religions were more meant about your personal spiritual liberation. But the Sikhism, I would say we don't believe in ism. It's more like in a modern, we call it Sikhi. That teaches that you cannot be a spiritual person if you can't take care of your family and your society. You have to be a family person. So marriage, raising your family is very much part of your faith. You can't just hide on a mountain and meditate. It may help you, but how is it going to help your family and your children? So there's a strong stress on living a family life. So after you guys walk out of this room, if you can remember these three things, I will be happy that I was able to convey the message what Sikhs believe in. So these are the three fundamental rules of Sikh faith. Naam Japo means always remember there is a creator within us. So if you see creator within you, how I'm going to treat you different? If it's the same creator within you, I mean, I should treat you equal and respectfully. Remember always. And second thing is, work hard, honest labor. Don't try to steal or even beg. If you cannot work hard and make your own living and you steal or you go and beg and play tricks, how are you going to be a spiritual person? You can't be. And the third thing is sharing. I mean, if you're blessed, you have plenty, be willing to share with others, because nothing is going to go with you. So there's a very strong stress in sharing, not just with your family and friends only. Share with other fellow human beings who may be less fortunate for whatever reason. So, Naam Japo, Kirat Karo, Vand Shako. If you guys can take this message with you, I will feel that my purpose of coming here today is accomplished. We already talked about it. So what happens when you talk about equality, you talk about justice, you talk about freedom, who gets mad? The rulers get mad. Because at that time to talk those was like challenging their authority. So fifth Guru, Sikh Guru, was fried alive by the ruler at that time because he wanted him to make some changes. The Guru said, I'm not going to change my words. So it's a long story short. So that was the first martyrdom in Sikh faith, that he was literally fried alive, Guru Arjan. But Guru Arjan is known for two things in our community, actually three things. One thing is, he's the founding, who started popularly known as Golden Temple, although we call it the WhatsApp. The gold was put later on, but he built this place of worship which has 4 doors, mean open to people from all directions, all faiths, all castes. And it's at the lowest place in the town. That means when you go and meditate, be humble. Put your ego aside, because if you have an ego within you, you can never realize spirituality. And the other thing is, he invited a Muslim saint to lay the foundation stone of this place to show that we are all one people, because Muslims were a dominant community in that part of the area at that time. So he invited a Muslim saint who was a progressive person, and he invited him. So, and thirdly, he installed the scripture. He said the knowledge is bigger than any individual. You need to respect the knowledge than person. Person can make mistakes, but when you have a collective knowledge, that is our scripture. So this is the fifth guru. This is the ninth guru. He was also executed by Mughal king, because he went to the Mughal king and told that people have a right to practice their faith of their choice. We call it freedom of religion in America. He was executed just because the kings didn't like those ideas at that time. Even some kings don't like right now. Now they are presidents and prime ministers. But sometimes authority feels challenged when you talk about equality. So there are a few other concepts. We believe that any service you do, it should be selfless. If you're doing some good things or charity work and you're doing it for your personal promotion, or you're doing something to gain personally, it's not going to uplift you spiritually. Whatever you do, it should be total selfless. So some of the Sikhs claim that the concept of Red Cross came from one of the Sikh historic incident, that one of the Sikhs was giving water to the opponent's army, one of the injured soldier, and the people complained that he is helping the enemy. So Guru said, what were you doing? He said, you told me to give water to the injured people. You didn't tell me to give it to the Sikhs or the Muslims. So I'm just doing my job. That's what Red Cross is. That is being a teacher or being a doctor. You do your job. You don't see whom you're doing the job for. So other thing is, we call it a community kitchen or a langar. You can go to any Sikh temple in the world. I assure you, you will get a free food. They will not ask you question who you are, what religion you believe in. You can go and test it, especially this weekend. So this is a painting of 10th Guru. He's the one who started the external appearance of the Sikhs. I think some of you want to know what happened. I will come to the 5Ks. So after the 9th Guru was executed, what happened? A lot of people will shy away saying that I'm a Sikh, because there was so much repression and persecution. So the Sikhs started hiding, because there were laws against that. If you arrest them because the kings or the authority felt that they were talking something which is contrary to, because kings thought they were ordained by the God to rule and discriminate, and they can do whatever they want to do. But the Sikhs always question, you're a human being, or we are all equal, and there should be no differentiation between any religion. So the Sikhs started getting persecuted, and some of the Sikhs started hiding. So the 10th Guru said, no Sikh can hide. He started an order of Khalsa. Khalsa means pure. He said, Sikhs gonna keep long hair, they're gonna have a turban, they're gonna carry a sword as a symbol of self-defense, because weapons were banned. Unless you don't belong to certain hierarchy, you cannot carry a weapon. So the Sikhs were told everybody's gonna carry kirpan, and they will dress certain ways, so they are very identifiable. So these were the 5Ks, which slowly became a part of Sikh identity, although all Sikhs don't keep the external appearance, but this was for the Khalsa. And that, what happens when you push people to corner, what happens? So they really pushed. 2 of his sons were bricked alive by the king. That wall still exists it's actually very close to my hometown, barely like half an hour from there. There were prices put on, if you find a Sikh, you can take the hat to the king, and they will get certain amount of dollars to you, or whatever currency they used, taka that time, taka, or money. But what happened, that really made Sikhs very, very strong. Although they were small in numbers, they eventually they became the rulers, most of the northwest of the India, which included most of the Pakistan, Kashmir. So the Sikhs were able to establish their own kingdom because they were pushed to really corner, and then they became very, very good soldiers. And this is Maharaja Ranjit Singh. He's considered as one of the most successful king. He was very secular. He didn't discriminate, employing his people irrespective of their religion. But what happened, then the British came to India. The British were the superpower. So now we're going to get how we got to America. We are almost getting there. So the British, when initially tried to have a treaty with him when he died, they attacked Punjab, there were wars. they took over Punjab because they were the superpower. And then British soon realized that it's not worth fighting the Sikhs. So what they played a very smart trick with Sikhs. They started hiring them into British Army. British Army had more Sikhs than any other communities from within India. And what they did, they hired the Sikhs in British Army and employed them away from Punjab. They put them into Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, China. It served two purposes. They used them as their mercenaries or their soldiers, and at the same time, they will not cause any rebellion because they took all the young men away. Who's going to fight? Young men, right? So they were all taken away. So, this is like probably one of the first American. And Maharaja Ranjit Singh was a very, very smart, shrewd person. He had a lot of French in his army after the Napoleon fell in Battle of Waterloo, and many of his generals joined his army. So this is one of the American mercenaries you can call who was hired by him just to show when American and Sikh interaction started. Probably 1780s, 85, he was hired by Ranjit Singh he was born in 1785, he was hired as a colonel in 1832. So this is Maharaja Ranjit Singh's son, and Queen Victoria was the queen of England that time. She was very smart. She adopted him as a godson and converted his religion, hoping that the Sikhs won't cause any rebellion. So there's a movie, if you guys have a Netflix, you can watch a movie called Black Prince. It's a story for another time. But he was probably the first Sikh who went into diaspora. It's a long story about him. So let's talk about how we got here. So what happened, all people come to America for the same reason, irrespective of where you come from, Europe or India or South America, wherever. We all want better life, more freedom. Some people had political issues. Some people came to join their families, a variety of reasons. So this is a story from 1899. I'm going to read it to you. I don't know if you guys can read it. This is a story from San Francisco Chronicle. Sikhs allowed to land. Although the Sikhs were here before, but this is the first documentation I could find. 4 Sikhs who arrived on Nippo Maru, that was the name of the ship, Japanese ship, the other day were permitted yesterday to land by immigration officials. The quartet formed the most picturesome group that has been seen on the Pacific mail dock for many a day. One of them, Bakshish Singh, speaks English with fluency. The other just little. They're all fine-looking men. Bakshish Singh, in particular, being a marvel of physical beauty. He stands 6 foot 2 inches and is built in proportion. His companions Booth Singh, Baryam Singh, and Sohawa Singh are not quite so big. All of them have been soldiers and policemen in China. They were in Royal Artillery, and the tall one with unpronounceable name was a police sergeant in Hong Kong prior to coming to the country. And they hope to make their fortune here and return to their homes in the Lahore district, which they left some 20 years ago. So that pretty much tells they were working in the British Army or they were policemen. So after some of them retired, they said, well, let's go a little further. So some of them landed in California, and many Sikhs landed in British Columbia. There's a huge Sikh population in British Columbia. So this is Bakshish Singh. That is his daughter, Kartar Kaur. This picture is from 1916. She's probably the firstborn Sikh woman, and I met Kartar in 2000. And I interviewed her, and you can listen from her how the Sikhs were treated when she probably heard the stories from her parents, and she grew up here. So we're going to play that little interview for you guys.
They had any problems getting jobs? I don't know how for everybody, but was it different for Sikhs because they look different, or was it just like anybody else?
No, it was not like anybody else. They looked upon Sikhs and Indians generally as freaks, as though
Hello?
we had come out of a circus or something. That there was great cruelty.
ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਜੈਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਰਿਹਾ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਬਾਹਰ ਭੇਜਣਾ ਓਕੇ
There was, I just wish, when I answer questions like this, that I had the facts at my
Can you get this guy in? He's a cameraman.
Washington, where there was a massacre of our people. That was some of the worst things. And then there was something in Wheatland in California, where people were also murdered, and there was a number of incidents of very cruel things done to our people. Outside of the fact that, about getting work, our people always got work because they were such good workers. If they were in California, then they were already in Punjab. They had been farmers, and they knew what to do and how to take care of the land and cultivate things. If they were in Oregon, where the lumber industry was, then they were such hard workers, but they were paid less. This was the discrimination. They got one rate of pay, and the European immigrants who were workers got a higher rate of pay.
Actually, I'm going to skip that. But the story she's talking about is, any of you know where Bellingham is? It's just on the border of U.S. and Canada. It's like 1.5 hour drive from Seattle. So there were a large number of Sikhs settled in that town. Some of them trickled from Canada. In 1907, one day they all got attacked, and they were told that you guys leave the town, you guys not desirable people, you shouldn't be living here. So 5 of those families came to Yuba City. They were all Joels. But the city finally realized after 100 years that was something injustice done. So they built this Arch of Healing. And when they had a groundbreaking ceremony, I had the opportunity to go there. So she's talking about this incident. This is a professor there who started all this great reconciliation project. But there was the one lady sitting in the audience, which I took the picture, which kind of stuck to me, that no one is free when others are oppressed. I talked to her, and she said, oh, one of my grandfather was also one of them who kicked out of the guys out of the shanks or whatever, So anyhow, that was very touching that the city realized that was something, their loss, and it was a benefit of Yuba City, that all those families who came here, they're doing fantastic. They have done well in farming, kids are professionals, some are teachers, some are doctors. Anyhow, this is a story she's talking about Wheatland from 1908. So this is how the media presented. Media was not very supportive of the immigrants from India at that time. The India was ruled by British. The new problem for Uncle Sam. This is 1910. So let's talk, being a teacher, you should know this, that in 1790, the Naturalization Act restricted citizenship to only white people. Afro-Americans were allowed citizenship after the Civil War, and even the voting right didn't happen until 1966. In 1913, there was the Alien Land Act. Only citizens were able to lease or buy land or property. And these countries were banned, which included India. So if you're here, you can't become a citizen, you can't vote, you can't buy a property, and even interracial marriages were considered illegal. So you can't marry some American woman to be a citizen. So what are you going to do? Any ideas? No, well, people are very innovative. They find way around things, right? So I'm going to talk about that. So this is we're talking about lumber mill workers from Oregon. So this is the first property the Sikhs bought in America. This is a Stockton Sikh temple, which is now on the map of historic buildings in California. That temple was built in, we call it Gurdwara, because we don't have any statues or anything else in the temple. We only have our scripture, but usually temple, people understand the word easy. So a lot of places call temple. So this is the first property Sikhs owned because there was exemption in the law that you can have a place of worship. So this building still exists, which they have converted into a library. If you ever have a chance to go there. So let's talk about this guy. This guy's name is Bhagat Singh Kang. He had a PhD from Berkeley, and wow. Well, that's. I'd like to have a picture with you after the presentation. Wow. So Mr. Kang came here to Berkeley, got PhD. Then he thought maybe I should go into U.S. Army, because there was a law that if you serve in the Army, you get exemption, you become a citizen. See what happened. So let's go back. So there was a Japanese-American guy from Hawaii. He was very white-looking. His skin was very white. So he filed for a citizenship saying, I'm a white person. But finally, the case went to U.S. Supreme Court. But U.S. Supreme Court said, yeah, you are white, but you're not Caucasian by race, so you cannot be a citizen. So then Bhagat Singh Kang, most of the North Indians or Punjabis are technically or scientifically Caucasian by race. So they're migrants. Our forefathers migrated from the same part. So the Supreme Court said, yes, you are a Caucasian by scientific terminology, but not by a common man's perception. So he was denied his U.S. citizenship. So now you can't be a citizen. And even the Supreme Court said, which we think is the ultimate authority on the law. So after this, many Asian Indians who were already citizens became one or another way, they all lost their citizenship rights. So many were refused marriage licenses when they married some white ladies. But then what they did, I asked earlier, I tell you what they did. So this is his certificate of honorable discharge. Anyhow, that's a separate story. So three things happened. There were three kind of groups. One group thought maybe we should go back to India and liberate India from English rule. That's what then Americans probably will respect us more, because we are coming from a country which is ruled by foreign power. That's why Americans don't want us. So some of these guys went back, and they started, actually the India's freedom movement was started in America. A lot of people don't know about it. They talk about other leaders. It was a party of revolution called Ghadar Party, formed in California. So America can take some credit for starting the spirit of democracy and the struggle for freedom of India. So that's a separate story. So there were two things people did to stay here. One was to make a friendship with some white friend or white attorney. Say, okay, I will buy a property in your name. I'll give you 10%. I will take care of everything else. So a lot of those deals worked out just fine. So people made friendship with others and took care of the farms and gave 10% or leased from you or whatever. That was the one method. The other method was a lot of Sikh men married Mexican women. So a lot of Sikhs don't give that credit, that a lot of Punjabi men got their citizenship by marrying Mexican women at that time. Because Mexicans were already in California, because California was a Mexican territory before. So nobody took care of that, because they were brownies, nobody took notice of it. So that's a history. It's an important piece of history. We need to respect the history. So this is a picture of some of the Punjabi Mexican daughters. They used to call them half and half. So, but one thing I will say, the Punjabis or Sikhs are very good in is lobbying. They didn't give up their American dream. They kept trying. They kept raising funds. They kept working with political leaders. Finally, President Truman signed this Lucy-Seller Act, which allowed the people who were already here for a certain number of years were allowed to become U.S. citizen. So that was 1946. But they only allowed the ones who were here, not their families. They couldn't bring their families. This is a very important story. This is the picture of Dilip Sand and his wife, and President Kennedy, who was a senator in 1958. He became president in 62. Dilip Sand, he had also a master's degree from Berkeley. Couldn't find a job, became a farmer. He went to El Centro area down in southern California, close to it's a desert basically. So he also had a law degree. He tried to be a judge. They didn't let him because he was not a citizen. So he fell in love with a girl whom he met her on a ship when he was coming. They married, but she has to give up her citizenship to marry him. But when the 1946 law happened, he became a judge, and then he became a congressman 3 terms. So that's the beauty of this country, which didn't allow him to be a citizen. Now they elected him. So that proves if you're good, if you're persistent, and you have the right attitude, you can overcome all the challenges and all the barriers. So he's highly respected. Recently, they named a post office after him in California. So 1965, something big happened. After the civil rights movement, and that's a lot of people don't know that civil rights movement didn't help just the Afro-Americans, it helped all people. And this law was passed, which was signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson. He gave a famous speech at the Statue of Liberty. I don't think if you want me to read that. So basically, they abolished the quota system. Before there was a quota, people could only come from certain countries. So what it did to the Sikh population in Yuba City, this is what happened. So of course, they could bring their families, they could bring their brothers, sisters, parents. So a lot of Sikhs migrated to U.S., especially this part of the country, because they already had some family members here. We have many successful farmers. This is a picture of Jasbir Singh Kang, who's known as a peach king. Dr. Kapani, he's a former professor at Stanford. He invented the fiber optics, and somehow never got a Nobel Prize. This year they're trying. The Stanford professors are lobbying for him to be given Nobel Prize. I don't know if he's going to get, but he said he doesn't care. But he did. He invented something which benefited a lot of medical technology, even used in telecommunication. Many successful business people, now Sikhs are part of everything in America. They're part of business, teaching, trucking, anything. You will see in all spheres of American life. There's another important historic event which happened in India in 1984. There was a movement for greater autonomy by people in Punjab, and Indian government treated it very heavy-handedly. They attacked Golden Temple. So that caused a lot of Sikhs seeking asylum in America. But this time Americans treated Sikhs very differently. They were very gracious, very welcoming. A lot of Sikhs got asylum in America after that. So this is a young girl from Yuba City who became the first Sikh officer in Air Force. I'm going to skip these. The side parade, we have a cultural festival which we started in 95. Let's talk a little bit about life after 9/11. So 9/11 was a double tragedy for Sikh Americans. Obviously, our country was attacked. We were sad. And then, at the same time, we were blamed for something we had nothing to do with. There were thousands and thousands of hate crimes happened against Sikhs. As I told you, the Sikhs always fight back. So a lot of Sikh organizations came into existence. Sikhs started efforts to educate other fellow Americans, and in a way, a lot of good things happened. I think Americans know a lot more about Sikhs than they knew before 9/11, although we lost some innocent people, but awareness is a lot better now. So this is Dr. Nijar. He was a surgeon at Ground Zero after 9/11. He's US born. I met him. He said he had no idea that he was there 24 hours trying to help people. And then when he went on a street and people were calling him Osama and you go back home, he said, this is my home. So he took a national tour educating people who the Sikhs are. The worst victims after 9/11 were taxi drivers. Many taxi drivers got stabbed, beaten up, even killed. This guy always makes me sad. This is a picture of, this is me talking to Rana Sodhi in front of White House. He lost his two brothers post 9/11. Both killed by some ignorant Americans who didn't know. They thought they looked different. Maybe they are the part of terrorist group. But unfortunately, they were just average, hardworking Americans. So he was recognized by President Obama in White House. And, sorry, it makes me emotional. He forgave the killer. So that's another story I like to share, which makes me very proud. This is the oldest marathon runner in the world. This guy's name is Jasbir Singh. He's like 104-year or 105-year-old now. He came to run marathon in New York after 9/11. So he did his first marathon here in 6 hours, 54 minutes at the age of 89. So people were calling him Osama. Then he started running fast, and he did it in 5 hours, 40 minutes. So the point is, if you mess up with the Sikhs, they're not going to surrender. They're going to get strong. So the Sikhs are very happy, very proud to be Americans, but there's still some barriers to serve in armed forces, but it's getting better and better. Recently, before we had only few professionals in U.S. Army. Now they are giving exemptions. And mainly in Army, but we are trying those in Air Force and Navy also. So those are the barriers. This is another sad story. This kid died in Iraq, and it took 6 months for Pentagon to find a Sikh symbol, because because his father wanted his remains to be in Arlington Cemetery. You probably all know that's the largest cemetery for the soldiers who given their life for America. So this is a challenge every father thinks. Do we really have a freedom of religion? Do you guys have this book in your school? So this book is approved by School Board of California as educational. I think it's more meant for 3rd or 4th grader. This is a coloring book. I think it's a good way to kids to have a respect for each other. So our governor, Jerry Brown, did a fantastic thing a few years ago. He signed 2 bills. One was that you cannot discriminate people for their religious attire at workplace. The other was the thing is, if you look at your textbooks, history or social books, there's nothing in the books you can find about Sikhs. They're totally missing. So they passed the law. Hopefully the new books which will come, they will have some chapters. And plus it's your responsibility as teachers. I mean, if you don't have anything, you can always teach in your classroom as a extra material. The reason I get as emotional, because I raised 2 kids, 2 boys. They're both different. One is clean shaven, other wants to keep his turban, and he wants to be like his dad. So it shouldn't be that hard on kids. So this is a picture I use. This is a gentleman, Jasbir Sodhi, who was killed. A lot of people say we are a melting pot, so we should melt everybody and make them look alike, like this, or we can keep our diversity in America and be whatever we are and still look great. So this is what I believe, that this is what makes America the best country in the world, because we have people But different ideas, different backgrounds, that's our richness, that's not our weakness. And that's his other brother, younger brother. So, as I mentioned, these both brothers died. So this is a quotation from our scripture, which is very hard to practice. Truth is higher, but higher still is truthful living. We can talk about all the great things. If we don't live up to them, they mean nothing. So to me, America is a country, is the ultimate place in the world where people come so they can live freely. So we have a museum in Yuba City. Any of you been to the Sutter County Museum? And we will be happy to give a guided tour to your students if you ever want to bring them there. We have an exhibit there. And we have a few websites. Recently, UC Davis started a Punjabi digital archives, building the history of the Punjabi or Sikh migration to US. And if any of you want to reach me, this is my email address. If you guys have any questions, you need any resources, I'll be happy to be a resource. Any questions? Yeah, sure. Sure. I'll make a flash drive copy and just give it to Jeevan, and he can share with you. So the way I see, I'm a doctor. I'm not a very practicing of religion or anything. I'm a very average person, more focused on science. But I do believe spirituality is very important.